So I am going to ask Larry to provide just a quick introduction for Amy Walton. And Amy, we're so grateful that you are able to spend a few moments with us here. And I know you've been tuning in throughout the morning, so we're really pleased that you're able to be here. Larry, would you like to introduce Amy Walton?
Well, as you know, without Amy Walton and her belief in our vision and her support over these last 6 years, we wouldn't be here having this capstone. So we're very indebted to her. I want to tell you, it was over 40 years ago that I got my first NSF grant funded. And I've worked with an awful lot of program officers at the NSF, and Amy is in the top one hand of those program officers. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that she's one of us. I mean, she, got her Ph.D. from Princeton. She worked at the Jet Propulsion Lab, and she was, working on processing, analysis, management, and visualization of Earth and space science data. And oddly enough, including working with the Forest Service in the very first airborne detections of forest fires with very primitive fire standards today equipment. So she understands all of this. She was actually doing such great work, and she got in 2010 NASA's Exceptional Service Medal for incorporating science guidance into technology development programs. Does that sound familiar to the PRP community? That's what we do. And so I think it's her background is why she's so understood us as a program officer in NSF's Office of Advanced Science, Cyberinfrastructure. She's also, by the way, leading, making major contributions in other ongoing programs that I think she'll mention. And she's just been a tremendous pleasure to work with. This program came out of the DIBS program, which the data program, which I think is itself quite tells a lot of story that it's a data program that the PRP is funded from. So with that, Amy, if you could give us a few remarks.
I'd be delighted. Thank you for that kind introduction, Larry, and thanks to all of you for the hard work that you have done over the last few years to make this exceptional program happen and to have provided the results that you have so far. Just sort of at the top level, I get to do just three things: a sentence of history, a few highlights of why this is such an outstanding program at the present, and then maybe a few words about looking forward. So when this program was started, I had been at the National Science Foundation for a year, heading the data building blocks program. Again, that was just something that was trying to combine the research community with all the problems that they were having with some of the tools and techniques that were there and emerging at the time. Is that, as you heard from Alex Feltus and Scott Sellers, one of the big problems for the science is that 80% of their time wrangling data, at least up until very recently when this program started, is that where is it? Can I get it? How can I get all of it? How clean is it? Just all of the issues that go is that if you spend 80% of your time on cleanup, that you have very little time to do your science. And if we could somehow reduce that cleanup time, there would be a 5-fold increase in the workforce that's working on science issues. So that was a force multiplier that we were very interested in. And so I started collaborating with my next door neighbor, Kevin Thompson, at the time that he was busily involved with the campus cyber infrastructure program, that let's kind of combine what's the problems with data and the problems of networking and try and get through those barriers. And as you know, that at the time, the networks were not as well connected, and isn't it interesting that when we started this activity, the discussion was about the last mile, that it was sort of that we were going from these but at the time were considered phenomenal speeds of transferring data to stopping at often the campus entrance. And now basically what you have created is an at the desk science cyber infrastructure. And so we didn't know at the start. We were just trying to solve this problem that somehow we got off the rocket ship and had to take an ox cart for the last mile. And so now it's a matter of the time to science is in your control at your desk. And that has been a wonderful breakthrough, and this program has been a hallmark of success in that area. And I think there's three things that make that notable. Is that I think the very first thing that you were doing, you were focused on the science problems, like that Alex Feltus and Scott Sellers were again mentioning, is that here is the problem that I was trying to address, and that I don't even know what's out there. And so how do you have a comfortable collaboration with people who speak a slightly different language, and to try and understand, is this really a problem, or it's been solved already? And so that takes a lot of human patience. Some of the things Anna Hunsinger was mentioning a little earlier, is it just trying to get the people to be patient with each other and work together has been, I think, one of the hallmarks of what you've been trying to do, and what we're finding is a much more important part of these science capability. I think a second thing is that this has been an outstanding model for cyber infrastructure, is that we are realizing that if we do it right, it's an ecosystem. Instead of everybody having to create their own remember when we used to build those systems a blade at a time and wire it up so that we had spaghetti that people were tripping over, and trying to figure out how to organize and what was the best kind of medium to hold the data in, all of those kinds of problems, is that we're getting to the point now, and it's not just universities. This is the community includes people who are way more adept at whether it's processing units or storage devices or network connectivity. We have a lot of allies in the area. And so what you've basically done is get to a model where I only need to deal with the increment that makes my work possible, as opposed to starting from scratch and building everything. So I think that's a second thing that was really exceptional about the work that you've done. And then finally, what you've done, and to be very proud of, is that you have built a collaborative community, and sort of the underlying, the network engineering community is in some ways invisible, but you're a team of invisible innovators. And that's where I want to just take a second. And I think one of the key people that we supported was John Graham, and we are very proud to have done that, John. So that's all the positive reinforcement you have. Here's my next problem that I'm going to explain to you and have you solve right now. But in any case, that what you had done is creating a large and growing community of people, and that has a positive aspect, that every person you add provides value. And then the thing that I think we were hearing from Richard Allo and Anna Hunsinger is the flip side to that. Anybody that you don't include is lost productivity for the community. And so that's, I think, where the foundation is trying hard to expand who it works with in the coming days. So looking forward, if I had to just very quickly go through a handful, let's keep it on one hand, the things is that I do think that we will continue to see this growing set of collaborations and integration. Some of the programs we have at NSF, we use the word convergence a lot, and it's basically back to what was the key number one thing that you had done, is that you combine the science community with the technical and networking underpinnings of the community. But it's again, it's across the resources, whether it's computers or networks or data and storage systems. If you stop to think about it, the longest lived or the longest duration of those resources has been talking all day in this meeting. It's the human aspect of that we have to continue. You know, we all almost are making jokes about those IBM punch cards and tape and all of those things, and we're still here. So keeping that community involved in the first place, but engaged and trained, is something that continues to provide either benefits, or if we exclude them or miss them, losses to what we can do to support our future and the research enterprise. So I think it's going to be a growing, continuing integration, but that's on us to try and make that work and be successful. But at the same time, especially as we come out from under this pandemic, we're going to enter a new normal that is not the old normal. Is that we are, I think, going to have a very complex ecosystem that is more distributed, but it also, if it's linked, if it's federated, if it's regional, it'll work. And if it's isolated, it's lost. And so that's something that, again, it's on us to take and make the attributes that we can affect work well for the community. Again, I think the future, we're going to have more and more of incremental, that we will basically take advantage of a large and growing body of experience from a large and growing body of collaborators from industry, from all the networks that have been represented here today, from international communities that there'll be a lot to draw upon. And so we will not grind our own chemicals as was done in the 1920s chemistry. We will be able to utilize things that exist. And that gets to the fourth point, that I would think that we are going to have a heavy reliance on, whether you call it pointers, or I think Jim, the NiserNet talk was mentioning that it's templates, or basically a library of videos, tutorials, test drives, is that there's going to be a much heavier reliance on how to and what to, so that we don't have to, if you have to learn an entire computer language and not have accidentally put in a period rather than a comma, or vice versa, it'll be a much longer process. And so being able to draw upon these pointers and existing infrastructure is going to be important for us. But I think the final point that I would suggest is that future is also going to be both, it's going to be much more empowering. There's going to be more people who could contribute. Again, the onus is on us. And there's going to be more need to have those participants, because as we were hearing, for example, from Ilkay's example, she started with real-time forest fire issues, and that's an important issue. But then you can also use that data or add a couple of additional data sets, and it can be civic planning to minimize the effects of those fires or those floods or those power outages, that more and more people will be involved in those activities. So it can be, we were hearing earlier today, the democratization, but certainly the empowerment of people to take on and solve their own problems. And that I think is an exciting future. So let me just in closing note that this program has been an outstanding example of very powerful and very empowering developments, and it has broad and growing implications. And I want to thank all of you for providing great value in this research, and it has been a privilege to have been your research sponsor at the National Science Foundation. So thank you all, and let me turn it back over to you, Larry. Wonderful presentations and discussions today. Thank you.
Amy.
Thank you so much, Amy. Really appreciate all those comments, particularly given the enormous number of grants and proposals that cross your desk. You have a vantage point that hearing those things from you means a lot to us. So really appreciate how patient and supportive you've been and continue to be. And we hope that the PRP, in fact, is a model for the NSF on this whole ecology, as they call it, cyber infrastructure ecology moving forward, because this is really just the start of what I think will be a decadal shift to much more distributed and intelligent systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's been marvelous to have been able to spend the time here today.
Thank you, Amy. We're so honored that you were able to spend the morning with us, and you summarized and highlighted a number of the wonderful presentations that we had. And I want to extend first my thanks to all of the speakers and the panelists. They did a terrific job. You'll see the other folks who deserve our thanks here, the program committee who pulled it all together, the video team that created the video, especially the National Science Foundation and your sponsorship, Amy. We are so grateful that with your support, we've been able to accomplish what we've outlined today. So thank you, finally, all the participants in the audience who joined us. The recording of today's events will be available shortly and will be available there at the URL that you see at the bottom, pacificresearchplatform.org. You'll also be receiving a survey pretty soon to let us know what you liked, what you would like to learn more about with respect to what you heard today. So we will be grateful if you'll take a few minutes to fill that out. So enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for spending your morning with us.